Guys, I'm happy about this, really. If you're a Red Sox fan, world champions, baby. If you're a Walking Dead fan, not such the great transition. Alright, I'm going to preface this just right now. I finished watching the World Series last night, and the Red Sox beating the Astros in Game 5. 2018 World Champions. I'm a huge Boston sports fanatic, as you guys have probably seen all of my Patriot content. Haven't really touched upon the Red Sox, but I've been silently watching the playoffs, and I'll probably make a big video about that or something. But the reason I'm saying this in a Walking Dead video is that right after I was done watching the World Series, I skipped watching The Walking Dead when it was like live, but I knew it would be available on demand on AMC's website. So I said, okay, I'm super pumped up and jacked about the World Series. I can't believe they won. Oh my gosh, this team's amazing. And now I'm going to watch The Walking Dead and see what happens. And like from here to like here, like range of emotions wise, can't even be overstated. Obviously, for anyone who watched the episode, you know what I'm talking about. You should probably not really invest yourself in this video if you haven't watched the episode, because major spoilers and major events happened. Again, really, really good episode. All right, I almost spoiled my rating that I was gonna give it, but I absolutely love this episode. Once again, and Angela Kang said it in The Talking Dead. She's like, all these episodes feel like mini premieres. They all feel like they have premiere finale level quality to them. And I miss that about the show, man. And Scott Gimple just didn't have that with a lot of episodes that he did in Season 7. Season 7 especially, where it felt like filler content. It was like, oh, let's just give more screen time to Carl and Enid rollerblading down the street and Carl running over a zombie with a car. It's like, what does that, like, add to the fucking show? Like, you could have had a more meaningful scene between these characters rather than fucking, oh, look, I'm rollerblading in the apocalypse. Like, I don't know, that just stuck out to me as one dumb scene that I remember from Season 5. Actually, my dad watched the show, used to, and remember he texted me, he's like, what the hell is this scene with them doing this? I'm like, I don't know. But anyway, so the plot of this episode from the previous is obviously Maggie is going to Alexandria to supposedly try and kill Negan. She's got a crossbar, and she is just, like, fed up waiting. It seems that she's just been eating her up. She's kind of on a hot... Like, she feels like her philosophy is the correct one, seeing as how she hung Gregory, and she inspired the women of the Oceanside to take their fate into their own hands. So they were both inspired by each other. The Oceanside was inspired by Maggie's decision to hang Gregory, and then Maggie was like, well, you know, if the Oceanside's really taking their fate into their own hands, I got to do the same. So we don't really see Maggie much in this episode, but Rick ends up getting wind of this from Jesus, because Jesus is still kind of morally conflicted about this whole thing. We saw that in Season 8, so he tells Jerry, and then Jerry tells Rick. Jerry's like, hey, Hefe. Classic Jerry. So then after that, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think, like, for me, guys, I'm caught up right now. I'm so frustrated right now about what happens at the end of this episode. Obviously, it was an inevitability for me. That's the thing. Like, it was known. Like, they kept marketing it. Yeah, Rick's final episodes. So this really shouldn't be that much of a surprise that what happened at the end of the episode happened. But in a way, it's all kind of because of Daryl and Maggie's fucking decision making, and maybe that's why they left that Season 8 cliffhanger off like they did. Because it does come into play about how Rick meets his demise, because Rick is going to go to Alexandria to stop Maggie, and then Daryl hears this, and he offers to give Rick a ride on his motorcycle. Meanwhile, Daryl is up to some naughty business and just drives Rick into the middle of nowhere, and he does it. It's basically, like Norman Reedus said, it was kidnapping, but he does it to just get Rick away from Alexandria to give Maggie her opportunity. Rick figures out what's going on pretty quickly. It was kind of giving me like Shane vibes from Season 2, where he just let him out. Obviously, Daryl wasn't looking to kill Rick. They do tackle each other. Of course, a conveniently placed hole. They fall in the hole, and They can't get out initially, and then they. This was one of the best conversations just with two characters. It was one that I went back and watched a few times. Just Rick and Daryl just hashing out things. Daryl really just boiling it down to the fact that Rick is holding on to this false vision of his son, using his son to justify keeping Negan in that cell. And, like, you know, you gotta let it go. Carl's gone. You can't do anything about it. And it almost looked like Rick was kind of coming around to that logic, because Daryl's like, you got to put more faith in the people that are around you instead of this psychopath murderer who you're just keeping in this cell. And he's, as Daryl says, he's a symbol to those other saviors, the saviors who think they got the short end of the stick after the war. And he's the locked up messiah who could break free and start the whole tyranny over again. So, you know, they have a really... It's just a really good conversation. I can't really do it justice by going through the whole thing, but you got all the drama. Walkers are more nonsense, of course. This always ends up happening. Like the saviors finally flip out. Some of them get guns, and then they go to the camp and they engage in a firefight. I don't know who shoots who first. Carol is, up to her sneaky self when it comes to disarming and winning a battle. She lowers her gun, then she knifes that lead savior, the one that's kind of leading the pack of fired up saviors. He leads the charge, and gunshots. I don't know who shoots who, but there's shots fired. Walkers are drawn from that. Some of the walkers fall in the hole that Daryl and Rick are in. They use that to their advantage to get out of the hole. There's a great quote where Rick's like, "Brother, take my hand," like kind of solidifying their friendship. There's a horse that breaks free, and so Rick says, "Look, I'm going to take the horse and I'm going to redirect the horde." And then Daryl's like, "No, don't do it," like kind of like a dramatic Hollywood moment, "Don't go." And then Daryl ends up getting on his bike and heading back. Rick takes the horde, and then of course there's a convenient, and they actually, when Daryl and Rick are driving by it, they actually focus on it. There's like a piece of rebar from concrete just sticking out of the ground conveniently at an angle, and Rick falls off his horse. The horse gets scared by the walkers. Rick falls off his horse and gets impaled like on this, like right here, almost kind of where he got shot. I don't know if that's an illusion. I don't know if they did that on purpose, but it's where back in season 1 when he got shot when he was still a cop. It's like literally the same spot. Like the rebar like thing like stabs right through his chest, literally right. And I guess if Rick's gonna get injured, at least it's a metaphorical injury that harkens back to season 1. And I imagine in all of his hallucination shit that's going to happen in the next episode, they're probably going to reference that. There's some pretty wacky clips for the preview for episode 5. But I won't get much into that. And then the other main part of this episode focused on Michonne and her interactions with Negan. Negan tries to establish parallels to him and Michonne, but in reality, it's later revealed that he's just trying to see Lucille. We don't even know where Lucille is by the end of this episode. In the Walking Dead comics, Dwight holds on to it, but Dwight is nowhere to be seen so far in 4 episodes, assuming he just ran off with Sherry, and they're just... Well, Daryl laid down the law that if he comes back, he's dead. So I don't know what the heck's going to happen to Dwight, But yeah, so the Negan and Michonne scenes are interesting because Negan shows a really personal side of himself. He reveals a lot of the stuff that in the comics that they talk about Lucille, how she died from cancer, how Negan kind of cheated and screwed around on her. He wasn't the most faithful husband. But then he admits, he says, and then he draws the parallel to Michonne's son. And he's like, your son and my wife, they weren't going to survive this world anyway. They weren't built for it, so we have to kind of be the ones that carry on that through our brutality. And it almost kind of scares Michonne to the fact where she's like in the kitchen and then she like walks all the way down back to the cell and it's kind of like, why'd you say those things? And Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird, but weird in the sense though that I liked the parallels. I liked that the show was trying to establish that. And again, Angela Kang is just really good at setting up a scene and giving meaningful interaction between characters, and there really was. Rick, in a way, kind of has final conversations with a lot of the season one characters. Like he and Carol have a conversation. Obviously, him and Daryl have that long conversation in the hole. Really, from the way Daryl had that kind of dramatic look, and be careful, he says to Rick. Like it really did feel like Daryl was saying his final goodbye to Rick. However, the previews to episode 5 reveal that Rick gets himself off the fucking rebar, so he's able to somehow get himself off that fucking thing, get back on his horse, and he's slow bleeding out riding his horse. And then he gets to the bridge. There's a scene where he gets to the bridge. So I don't know what's going to happen. And then, of course, you see the scene in the trailer where all of the community, the people of the community are rushing, and Rick's kind of like passing out, like kind of like he's like on the bridge. I don't know what's going to happen. People are suspecting that maybe Rick, like the bridge collapses and Rick and the walkers are washed away, and then they leave it like you don't know what happens to Rick. Like Rick just gets washed downstream and you don't know what happens to him. Like they don't show him die. They don't show it. Obviously there's also the helicopter theory about Jadis and her whole A or a B thing comes into play, because that was also in this episode. Jadis has a really... Gabriel's saying, like, I forgive you if you do this, and she has too much heart. She can't go through with turning him into a walker, which I guess is a B. I guess that's what that means. A B is a walker, and A is a human. I have to assume that. So... because they've been using this A symbol a lot. It's the name of an episode in season 4. So I guess A means human, like the human side of you, and B is like the zombified, dead, lifeless side of you. That's my interpretation of it from the A or a B. Like, what else could it be? Like, you're either a human or a walker. There's only two. Like, there's no in between. So that's my interpretation of it. That's kind of the script I'm sticking to on it. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. That's been the most popular theory, that the helicopter just takes Rick away to some fairy tale destination. If he got swept away with the river, I mean, that's another thing. I don't know. I don't really... This next episode's going to be batshit insane, and I will be doing a reaction for it. Even though the Patriots and the Green Bay Packers are playing in a huge showdown, basically like the two greatest quarterbacks in the league right now facing each other, in Gillette Stadium, home for the Patriots, in a game I really wanted to watch. I'm only going to be able to watch like 40 minutes of it, because the game starts at 8:20 and The Walking Dead's on at 9. So I'm choosing The Walking Dead over football in this case, because this for me is it. This is the last reaction I'm ever doing. I haven't done reactions for other episodes of season 9 anyway. I didn't even upload that video where I was explaining that to you guys, but I've revealed it in other reviews for the other episodes, and I'm not doing reactions anymore for a variety of reasons. Copyright, just the interest in the show being deflated because of Rick Grimes. I mean, there's a bunch of reasons that are going into this decision, but I'm going to do it for episode 5. I'm going to have a full reaction to episode 5, and I'm only doing it because this is basically a tribute to Rick Grimes, and I want to see the guy off. I will do videos like this. I will, because I'm almost interested to see what happens. Like, is there a 5-year time skip? How does everyone look when they're freaking 5 years older? Like how do people? What's the reaction from everybody now that Rick's gone? What's Michonne's reaction? What's Carol's reaction? What's Daryl's reaction? What's Negan's reaction? We still have the Whisperers. Even though Carl and Rick are the fulcrum point of the Whisperers in the comics, it's gonna be other characters, I suspect, in the remainder of this season. I don't know. And then the thing is, depending where they leave things off with Rick, like if they leave it open-ended that he didn't die, and that he, like, Because again, like they've said many times, this is Rick's last episode, but Andrew Lincoln's directing in season 10, and I want to. It's almost like a vain hope for me. I want to hold out hope that they're going to leave it open ended enough so that Andrew Lincoln can find a way to come back to this show, almost like a Heath. Like Heath's been gone since season 7, and I still think they'll find a way to incorporate him into the show. And that's kind of my vain hope with Rick. Like, remove him from the show, give other characters time to shine, and then when the time is right, bring him back into the show. Like, that's kind of what I'm looking at for this whole thing. I don't know, guys. The next week's going to be rough. I'll do the reaction, and then I'll do my review. I'm going to try to have my friends with me for this one. Both of them, both Jack and Pete, because, I mean, they did all the reactions with me for the other episodes, and this is the last one I'm doing. So this has got to be an homage. Because if I don't do the reaction next week, technically my last reaction video will be for the Season 8 finale, and that video was all choppy. Like, half the video didn't have audio because my mic screwed up. So I'd rather we go out on a good note and not have that stupid reaction video where like half the video, the audio was all fucked up and our analysis and assessment was all screwed up. Yeah, I hope that it's much better in quality and all that. So, yeah, I mean, again, I'm still mildly excited for the Whisperers. Like, I'm interested to see the new cast. I'm interested to see Ryan Hurst. I forget the woman who's playing Alpha. And then there's obviously Lydia. I'm interested to see how it goes. I mean, let's see. I mean, again, Angela Kang has been directing great episodes, and a part of me wants to believe her that this show will be good after Rick. She's been doing a good job, and it's like I have no reason not to believe her. It's just because I firmly believe that this whole show is about Rick fucking Grimes. Like, from season 1, when he drives up to that gas station, this show has been about his quest to keep his family alive and to build a better civilization. And I don't know. It's tough because you could say that this would be a good way for him to go out because he's technically made civilization because he has this whole network of communities. He didn't protect his family, obviously Carl. He still has Judith around, but it's almost like maybe Rick's all tapped out. But again, there's more story for Rick in the comics. You know, there's more story for Rick. Like there's a brilliant scene in the comic book where Negan gives Rick advice because the Whisperers have just killed a whole bunch of people, and Rick's like, what do I do? The communities are rioting. Negan gives him advice, and Rick ends up lying. Like, Rick takes on Negan qualities. And I actually have, if you look at it, if you could see it right in the upper left-hand corner, you could pause the video. I know I just cut away from it quick. But it's a poster. It's Rick in a chair, and Negan has his hand on his shoulder. The devil on your shoulder, and I bought that poster just because it's a really cool looking poster, but it also fits. It's that new arc where Rick is kind of, again, he goes through that leadership change, and I've liked because all of the comic beats so far they've incorporated those into the show, and now it's just like, oh well, Andrew Lincoln's leaving, so I'll give episode 4 a 9. It's going to be hard to rate next week because I'm going to be like, 3.0 because I don't want Rick to leave. But at the same time, if it's directed well, I have to give it its due. I have to be fair. So my friends will be with me, so they'll be able to give their honest reactions too. So again, we'll see. We'll see. I'm really fucking nervous for this shit. It just feels like the end of an era, man. It feels like the end of an era, and I'm going to be giving kind of an obituary, really, to this guy when the next episode ends, and I don't know, it just sucks. It really just fucking sucks, man. So, let's see what happens, alright? Anyway, peace out. See you guys later.